Hello and welcome back to the Basic Bee podcast. I am Brittany, of course, your host, and we're going to be doing one of the Basics with Bee episodes. I had this idea and my friend Brianna helped me workshop it. So it's kind of like an SEO play on the 12 days of Christmas, but instead of dropping one episode every day for 12 days, I just wanted to give you everything. It's a grab bag and you can go in and take action on whatever you want to. I've got a little bit of everything in here. Social media, SEO, blogging, mindset, copywriting, nervous system stuff, legal, case study, client experience, branding, like pretty much you name it, it's in here. I am going to share the episode and at least one timestamp that you can go to within that episode that's going to have the really meaty, actionable tip that I'm mentioning. Of course, all of the links will be below. If you have any problems at all, go find me on Instagram. I'll respond to you much faster. But here's the whole concept for this. So I have been doing this podcast since January of this year. We are in December. We're at the end of the year. And maybe you're like me and you haven't had a chance to listen to every single episode that you thought you might want to listen to from this show. Quite all right. Like I said, I'm in that boat with you. But I wanted to give you 12. It's not even like the top or the highlights or whatever. It's just I scrolled through them. All of the conversations are so good. And trust me when I say it was so hard to pick just 12. But I wanted to highlight 12 things that are super actionable and things that I really thought would be helpful as we round out 2024 and go into 2025. So with that said, here are the 12. And these are in no particular order. We're starting off with how SEO is a soulful experience. It was one of the very first episodes that I dropped for the podcast. And what I focused on in that episode was, interestingly, the 3 questions that I ask all of my clients, all of my students, that act as your filter for all things SEO. So the 3 questions that you're going to need to know the answers to are at minute 6:30. Again, everything will be linked and listed below. But when you go to this spot of the episode, you're going to hear those 3 questions. And I really want you to take 10 or 15 minutes, set a timer, write out those 3 questions, and then let yourself brain dump on the answers to those questions. It may be a little challenging. You may need to talk it out. You may need to write it out. Do what you got to do, because if you don't have the answers to those 3 questions, SEO gets a little harder. Keyword research gets a little harder. Knowing what blogs to write is a little more challenging. So go there, do that. And honestly, if you do none of the other things that I tell you about today, do that. Next up, we have Coley James. We had the best conversation. And this podcast episode was part of a bigger collaboration where Coley and I were talking about Honeybook versus Dubsado. And it was a much larger conversation because I actually was a client of Coley's this year. And she came in and completely revamped my CRM. So you're going to hear what that is. You're going to hear a little bit about my experience and a lot about choosing the right thing for you and for your business. So if you go to minute 4:30, you're going to hear some things that are going to help you reflect on your business systems and how you can streamline those. Another couple of places that you can go to. You can add a more personable hello/thank you/welcome page to your inquiry process, and you'll hear all about that at minute 23. And the third thing I wanted to point out is you can make some strategic and just wise updates to your website footer, and you'll hear me talk a little bit about that at 21:30. Next, we have Belinda Weaver. This was the inspiration for this whole podcast because I was like, oh my gosh, her exercise that she mentioned was just so smart. So a couple of different things. One thing I want to mention is we were talking about social proof a bit in this episode, and she mentioned something that was just so wise, which is getting clients to tell you 3 words for how they would describe you and 3 words for how they would describe working with you. So if you go to minute 22, you'll hear us talk a lot more about that. But the meat of this episode was her 5 Ps of marketing. Please go do this. It was so smart. It's at minute 25 and you can just thank us later. Next, we have Sarah Light. So Sarah was on the podcast a little bit more recently and we were talking about time management and productivity. And there are 2 spots that I want to call out for this episode. One is what to do about that never-ending to-do list. It was a little bit of a pep talk, but a little bit actionable as well. So that's at minute 2:30. And then she gave the best explanation for how to think about planning as we go into 2025 at minute 9:30. So do yourself a favor, and especially if you need a laugh, go listen to that second one at minute 9:30. I also had my client Laura Litweiler on the podcast, and we got to do a little bit of SEO questions where she had questions for me and I answered those. And then it was part case study as well, because we looked into what happened, why she was interested in SEO, what we did, and then what those results have been. So 3 different things for you to check out. At minute 4, you can go check out why Laura even wanted to dive into SEO. At minute 5, you'll hear her perspective shift that happened while we were working together on keyword research and specifically keywords that we were using for her stuff. It's very interesting. So go listen to that. And at minute 10, you'll hear why she renamed her quiz title. And I'm laughing because there's a whole story there. So be sure to go check that out. We also had Yasmin Hamdan on. Again, she was like early in the podcast. I think we were together either in February or March, but she was on very, very early on with me. And we were talking about the importance of business contracts. 2 things I want you to listen to. If you go to minute 7, you'll hear what legal protections you need to have in place. And really it starts with why she even created Coaches and Company, which is her business, and what you can expect from contracts that she actually has created. And then at 14 minutes, you'll hear what you need to know to begin to legally protect yourself and your business. Justin Blackaman joined me also, I think he was in March-ish, and we really had a fun conversation. It was kind of split into 2 parts. So the first part was him being a client of mine with SEO, and so it was a case study reflection on that. And then the second half of the conversation really gets into more of like brand voice and brand voice copywriting, which is what he's known for. So the biggest thing that we focused on was making headlines findable and personable. And that is really what you'll get out of this. So if you go to minute 7, you'll hear what happened the first time Justin tried to write SEO-friendly headlines and what we found he needed to do instead. So it was kind of like an uh-oh moment, and then what we did to course correct. Jamar Diggs was also on the podcast, and we talked all things SEO for YouTube. So if you go to minute 21, you'll hear he gave some incredible, very actionable, very specific tips for keyword research and SEO optimization for YouTube. So if YouTube is on your radar, if you already have a YouTube channel, if you want to start one, if YouTube is just floating around in your brain, please go listen to that because it was a hilarious conversation, but it was chock full of information. And then if you need to bring your nervous system down a little bit, Kathleen Booker joined me for how to get our nervous systems more regulated as business owners. We talked about signs of a dysregulated nervous system and how to regulate our nervous systems. And Kathleen, she's so gracious. I mean, it was just like the funnest thing, but we had a breathwork exercise at, I think it was like 26 minutes and 30 seconds, somewhere around there. So you may have to play around with it in your podcast player, but highly, highly recommend. Bookmark that, save it, go back to it. I definitely do. So go check that out. A few more. We have my bookkeeper, Kelly Marshall, joined us, and she was sharing what the sacred money archetypes are, and then specifically what we got into the positives and the pitfalls of each archetype. If money is a triggering thing for you, cannot recommend this conversation enough. Go to minute 8, and that is where we begin the conversation with each archetype. Jara Bean was also on the podcast with me, and we got to talk about embracing a more authentic version of yourself on social media, online, and all of the places. And she has this really cool 4 quadrants of secret sauce to help you really just be and embrace that more authentic version of you. And she starts into that at minute 22. Highly recommend that. It was such a good framework. And last but not least at all, Letitia Lynch joined me, and we were talking about finding the fun in marketing and choosing your best channels and how to get inspired, and 2 places that you can definitely check out for that episode. Minute 4, it was our love letter to Threads and why we like being over there and what the fun of it is for that and what the strategy is or lack thereof. And it was just fun. So all things Threads are at minute 4. And then at minute, and it was about like 10 minutes, 30 seconds in there, you'll hear the different marketing channels that you need for your business. And I love the way Letitia explains this. So If that sounds even the slightest bit intriguing, go listen to it. And my friend, that was just 12 episodes. I hope you take the time to go back and at least revisit one episode. And just by taking action on that one task, you're already leaps and bounds ahead of the rest. Find me and share what you took action on. Share this with your biz bestie, and I will catch you on the next episode. Okay, you get it. You know SEO is important, but no, you're not interested in learning another skill. Who has the time? But who are you supposed to trust with the task of getting SEO to work for you? Someone who won't ghost you mid-project or treat you like a dum-dum lollipop. Someone who actually wants to empower you and your team with all things SEO. Hi, yes, it's me, Brittany, and you are the person I created the SEO packet for. You're curious, you want to understand this thing better, but like only a little bit. You don't actually want to do the doing. This way, you get the key SEO stuff super fast, and you get support throughout and beyond the project. No more letting Google gift you the wrong SEO strategy. Time to put the right words in the right places and get found online by the right people. Find all the info you need below.